Hello, I'm Jenny Fern and welcome to my library. I'm a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books! Can you tell that I don't have a witch hat and all I have is a regular ass straw hat? Today I would like to go through books that have witches in them. So first off, I have to get this out of the way. I wrote a children's book about witches. It's called Mitch the Human Witch. It is by me, and you can find a digital copy on Amazon. I am so proud of it. The first book that I have is Witch Hat Atelier, and this is actually a manga series. I have the first volume here. I absolutely love this manga series. It is so cute. It features 4 young witches that are studying, and I love the magic system. It's all about drawing symbols, and that's very fun. And I wish I could have read it as a child because it seems like it would make me believe that I could do magic. It's very fun. Also, the art and the panel layouts, everything about this is immaculate. The next book I have here is The Tempest by William Shakespeare. This is a rip-roaring time, and the events are kind of set off, or there's a witch who is critical to this story but is not on the page. And this also features a sorcerer, if you're into that kind of thing. Some classic Shakespeare for you. I hope you enjoy this. It's been a while since I've read it, and I can't say I remember it incredibly well. I do recall that the setting was quite interesting. The next book I have is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. This is an excellent, I guess, middle grade to young adult, but just so beloved by everybody, book series, His Dark Materials. And The Golden Compass, I think, introduces a witch character, Serafina Piccola, who's just so interesting. So this doesn't focus on witches, but it does include a witch character. I do have some more manga series to call out. There is one of my favorites, Flying Witch, which is such a low-stakes slice of life, very comforting manga series with not the best artwork, I'll fully admit that, but it's just like a warm blanket of a manga series about a young witch trying to figure things out with her friends. There are also some really interesting witch characters in Samari and the Guardian of the Forest, which is a story following a young girl in a world of monsters who is being taken care of by this golem-like guardian of the forest who is very, very old and is degrading. And I don't own copies of either of those because even though I love them, I just don't buy everything that I read. The next book that I have for this is Hex by Thomas Oldhovelt, and this is an excellent book, really, really focusing on this witch who is scary as fuck. She is so haunting, and she has such terrifying powers. She has a stranglehold over this town, and it is a pure story of like revenge that this witch has out basically for humanity. It's spooky as heck. Spooky as heck. It goes on for a tad too long for my preferences, but it is very, very good. Next, I have such a well-known book, although I have noted that some people didn't realize that this was a book. That is Wicked by Gregory Maguire. This is a story all about the Wicked Witch of the West, kind of her youth. I believe a lot of this is about her being in like a college type situation. It's been absolute eons since I read this, but it was well put together and I did enjoy it. So I did read Dorothy Must Die, and Wicked is such better written. I thought the writing in the Dorothy Must Die books was really, really bad, but luckily it got me into the original books, and I actually have read so many of the original books since then because it kind of introduces you to the characters, and I was like, this is weird. Let me read the original work, which I'm sure is much better written. Now this is something I've read recently, and now I just can't stop talking about it. That is Snapdragon by Kat Leigh. This is an excellently constructed graphic novel following a girl who has encountered a roadkill witch. That was the original title for this graphic novel, but they went with something that wasn't so maybe off-putting right from the get-go. But it is, in fact, somewhat about a roadkill witch, and if you're not the type of person who just that sentence wouldn't grip you, I think we have different tastes. Next we have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And I do not like this series. I'm not a big fan of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But, as the name suggests, this does, in fact, feature a witch. And who knows, maybe I should give this another chance. I am just not particularly interested in all this religious symbolism kind of stuff. I guess you could say I'm more on the Golden Compass side than I am on the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe side of things. I guess I could also mention Garlic and the Vampire, which clearly there's a vampire in there, but there is also a witch in, like, the person who creates all of these vegetables' sentience. So if you're interested in that, I didn't buy that one because I just didn't resonate with that story as much, but I know a lot of people really strongly recommend it. So if you're interested in something cozy and cute and with those really good fall vibes, Garlic and the Vampire is a good graphic novel. Next up I have A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. And similar vibes as The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, where I just don't really like this series of books very much. But A Wrinkle in Time is pretty fun. And we do have the three witches. Oh, I'm gonna have to look up their names. Oh, it's the first three chapters: Mrs. Whatsit, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Witch. And there's a lot of fun and kind of weird sci-fi blending with magic. It's very whimsical. We've gotten to the Miyazaki Studio Ghibli section. I have Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Kodono, which is a wonderful, sweet, short story about a witch venturing off to a town trying to become her own witch. And it's just so pleasant in a similar way as Flying Witches. Then we have Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This book has so much going on in it and is so inventive, and I really need to give this a reread because I just don't remember that much of what goes on in here, but I do know there's a Witch of the Waste in here who is pretty crucial to the plot. I don't know, this one's just like a full journey. Here I have just a straightforward anthology of stories that have witches in them. That is Witch's Brew, an Alfred Hitchcock compiling, and it is so fun. There are all different sorts of stories that have a witchy element to them. And one of my favorite stories from this is His Coat So Gay, which I do know is one of the weirdest titles in the world, but I just thought that story was so gripping. It's like this hunt on horseback, and it's associated with Samhain, and it's got like a little bit of like an anti-Irish slant to it, so not the best, but you know. Overall, this collection of stories was very fun to go through. Next up I have Coraline, a current classic, a classic middle grade story that is spooky and just quintessential Neil Gaiman. I had to look up if what is in here is considered a witch, and it is. I did this for so many books. I was like, is Matilda a witch? Apparently she's not, she's just telekinetic. This does feature a spooky element that is a witch. This book actually features some voodoo magic, so I think it counts. That is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. This is a nonfiction piece. It's basically like a true crime book. The author goes and interviews a bunch of people in Savannah about this murder. I had no idea that this was a real story or that this was about a murder when I started reading it. One of the coolest aspects about it is this element of voodoo. Then I have, again, such a children's classic. That is The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I love the Oz books. The Oz books are a pleasant place to be. I have so many of them now because I went and bought them because they do mean so much to me. There are witches. There are wizards. There is so much magic in this series in all sorts of fun new ways in each new book. So anyway, highly recommend trying these out if you're in for a fun, magical, and sometimes really frickin' spooky time. The next book that I have is Bless Me Ultima, a magical realism classic by Rodolfo Anaya. I recently reread this and it was not for me, but it does feature some really wonderfully written realistic witchcraft, which I just so enjoyed. I think my little witch adventure has ended. I genuinely have such a wonderful place in my heart for books about witches. I love reading about witches. I've read a lot of children's books about witches, and anytime we have a story and we put a witch in there, it's like instantly so much better. Please let me know in the comments what is your favorite witch book. And again, if you want to read something that I've written, this is available. Rarely ever talk about it, but there you go. Now that I've dyed my hair, I'm like my main character. How fun is that? So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, consider sharing it with a friend who you think would also enjoy it. Consider liking and subscribing, and I will talk to you again soon.